So, hey Sam.
Hey, Robert, how's it going?
Good.
Good.
Alright. So, hey guys, welcome to another video. I'm here with my good friend Sam. He also shot my wedding 3 years ago. And I just decided to take the opportunity to, just ask him some questions and maybe you could get some advice from him because he's full of it. We did a workshop here yesterday and it was absolutely amazing. So just take it all in.
I apologize in advance. Once I start talking, I tend to just overfill with words.
That's okay.
And it just doesn't stop, so you need to stop me if I start doing it.
Well, for all the folks out there, I just have to ask you, how you enjoying Trinidad so far?
I love it. Yeah, I spent around 5-6 hours today exploring the island with another new friend of mine now, Raymond. And I got to have a shark and bake again,
Nice.
which I remember from last time. And, it's just been lovely, really nice.
And so, what do you think about the weather compared to back home?
So much better. The current situation at home is just ice and snow. And so being able to, it's the only problem with the weather here is that I had to pack for warm weather here, but I had to arrive here wearing a sweater and jeans and all the winter clothes. But it's very nice, and I got really lucky staying in an Airbnb sort of up in the mountainside where the air is a lot cooler and it's constantly breezy.
Nice.
So that was really, really fun.
And you got your taste of your first forest fire.
Yeah, I drove by a couple of brush fires. That was pretty intense because nobody cared. It was just burning.
Yeah, that's Trinidad. So we had an amazing workshop yesterday. A group of great people. I took in a lot of information. You're always willing to open up and share. I think that's a problem we have here in Trinidad among the photographers that I'm trying to change. And get a lot more people to open up. What are your thoughts on that? On people who refuse to open up and share and share the knowledge that they've gained over the years and stuff like that.
The problem isn't really. It's a little scary because for me, I've always thought, okay, if I figure something new out, and maybe it's not new, like it hasn't ever existed before, but it's new to me. I immediately want to start telling other people about it, not because it's actually for a selfish reason. It's not just to enrich those people with ideas necessarily. I mean, that is a nice aspect of it, but it's really just so I have a reason to now move on to something else and figure something else out for myself, right? If I figure this really cool object like a prism works so well for all these different dynamic looks, I want to put that out into the world so then I have an incentive to completely rethink that and try something else.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, but a lot of people to think that if I have this technique, it's mine, and if I share it with others, they have kind of a competition going on, and they want to keep that secret so that they have that, so clients target them for that specific reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Rajiv, just want to talk to you. The manager or the girl over there. Yeah, she says you need to get permission before you're filming.
Oh, okay. Okay, no problem. Yeah, so just stop it here.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, after getting kicked out of the restaurant for filming, we took a little walk outside. We remembered that Sam wanted to see the steel pan in action. So we took him to a panya that was close by to the restaurant, and he got to actually see the steel pan, the players, and they were being judged at that particular point in time. So he got to see them play, and he was really, really amazed with the sound that was coming out of the steel pan. about that, folks. We got kicked out of, what's the name of the place again?
Show Cafe.
Show Cafe.
Yeah, Show Cafe.
It
Yeah.
was too fancy. We didn't
Right.
appreciate our interviews.
And that's good marketing for them, but they don't know that, so yeah. But
fine.
yeah, the last thing we were talking about was sharing information, and I didn't think you got to finish.
Yeah, my point was, no, I think I did finish. Really, it's all about, at the end of the day, if you figure something out and you feel like it has helped you, or it starts to define your style as a photographer, that's a dangerous place to be creatively. It might last you in the short term, it might do you really well, but in the long term, you don't want to necessarily be completely tied to a specific technique or expectation from your client. Yes, you need an overall sense of style and consistency, but for example, prisming, when I started doing that, it was great for a few years because nobody else was doing it. But I noticed that clients would occasionally request specifically, can you do this thing? And I'm happy to do that when people ask, but eventually, you kind of get in a creative rut, oh, okay, yeah, I have to do that. And some technique or some approach to your shooting may not be appropriate for every environment or every wedding that you're in. So it's kind of locking you in a really tough place when someone's like, oh, we hired you for this prism shot, please do it. And it's well, it may not really be appropriate for their specific wedding environment. So the more you can put things out there, the more it gives you a reason to move on to the next thing for yourself creatively.
So, one of the questions also that I wanted to ask was, how do you get into that frame of mind of being creative? I know most of your shots in weddings basically come from nothing, but how do you start to begin to get that frame of mind and be oh, I see something here. Is it something that you draw inspiration from and apply it to, creating these epic pieces?
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it comes from not killing myself the entire wedding day creatively. It takes a lot of mental energy to try and be hyper aware of the lighting or the angles or the whatever the opportunities are, and you'll just kill yourself the first 5 hours of the day if you do that through all getting ready, through every detail shot. If you're trying to make it excessively creative the entire day, it becomes really tough when 4 or 5 hours into it, you're you've got the bride and groom now,
yeah,
and they're looking for you for creativity, and you've been being creative all day.
Yeah.
So what I do is try and really silo my creativity. If I don't have the couple in front of me and we're not able to make creative portraits right then, I'm kind of on autopilot. Not that I'm not working hard or trying, but I'm just trying to take good, clean, classic shots, simple stuff where the lines are really clean or the moments are really genuine, and I'm not going out of my way trying to prism every shot or free lens every shot the whole day. And once the couple is looking at me and they're okay, we have time for some photos of just the two of us, then I'm full throttle with just jumping right into whatever I feel like. So that siloing of that creativity is really nice, and it's just almost like a mental game you have to play for yourself so that you're not totally exhausted 4 or 5 hours into shooting. At least with American weddings, it's usually 4 or 5 hours before I've got the couple with just me that I can do some cool portraits with. And I think people generally would appreciate that most of the wedding isn't over the top creative. It doesn't need to be. So you just kind of have to pick those moments out for yourself. That, and then listening to music as much as possible while I'm shooting definitely puts me in a certain mindset. So whether it's using those Bose frames where I can listen to music and nobody even realizes it, or the ear-in ones where I can listen to music during the reception, both of those aspects really, really help my creativity and just put my attitude in a really positive place. Yeah.
So basically you're saying during the day itself, try not think too much, save the energy for the creative energy for when you really, really want to use it,
yes,
for the couples and stuff. Try not to think too hard, just basically go with the flow, capture
let it flow
moment.
through you. Yeah. But, that's really, a lot of that also comes from, I think that mindset really set in for me around year 3 or 4, where I had been to enough weddings at that point that even if I was on more of an autopilot, I was still like intuitively aware of like, this is good, this is bad. Like I'm not taking crap shots and then saving the good ones for just the couple. I just want to make sure that's very clear. But after a few years of shooting, you just kind of get a sense of like what's a good photo, what's not. And then when I really start taking riskier shots is with the couple. I get a lot of failed ideas when I'm photographing just the bride and groom. That's a result of being creative. You're just going to have a lot of failed attempts, and if you just embrace that failure and recognize when you've hit a good idea, it works out.
Like I always say, failure is part of the beautiful process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I also want to know, like, what do you do, like, like to keep yourself energized, like mentally and physically? Because weddings is like 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And like, what do you do to like not get that burnout feeling?
Physically, that's easy. One, I try and exercise when I'm not shooting as much as I can, just running, nothing extreme at all. And then 2, physically, on a wedding day, I bring a change of shoes. So the first part of the day, I'll wear 1 pair of shoes, and then during the reception, I'll generally change into like tennis shoes or something, still all black, so it's not like tennis shoes, but something way more comfortable for my feet. You don't even have to wear something super comfortable or not. Like, as long as you have a different pair of shoes where the pressure points are different, you're going to feel a little more energized and your back's not going to hurt as much. The other thing I do is I go to the restroom or somewhere a little more hidden, and I lay on the ground. So I find a wall, and then I lay on my back, and then I put my feet straight up. I'm actually working on a photo series of just my feet and the ceiling. And as you lay down and you kind of inch your butt closer to the wall and you make a 90-degree angle, your weight really pushes against your back and it just pops naturally and it feels amazing.
Nice.
So I try and do that every wedding. But
basically sitting on the ground and just putting your feet against a 90 degree.
90 degrees, back on the floor, feet up against the wall. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
It really helps.
That's a good tip.
Yeah.
Also, some weddings I shoot, like you tend to get a time limit, and you also have to deal with, the coordinator, and sometimes they're like, hey, you have like 5 minutes, and but the couple really wants you to get those amazing images. How do you deal with that situation at weddings when you have like that cramped time limit?
I try and use it as an excuse to just, first of all, use whatever we have around us. They're like, oh crap, we only have 5 minutes. And, a lot of my more creative photos have come out of us just being in a physical space different from everybody else, right? So most couples book a venue because they want to photograph in the beautiful forest or the beautiful gardens or whatever. And if you only have 5 minutes, that doesn't give you a lot of time to go somewhere else. So if you happen to be in a location that's kind of not that inspiring, that can actually start to work in your favor. And it's a little awkward to try and convince a couple if you've got all the time in the world, if you've got a perfect sunset. It's like the same issue when the weather's really bad. It's really easy to tell somebody, hey, can we shoot here? Because they don't know what else to do. We don't have time to go out, or we don't have the ability because it's raining. Yeah, let's shoot in the bathroom of where we got ready. And again, just by being in a different physical space, my photos are going to look different by default. Now, oftentimes that means there's a lot of bad photos to go along with it, so you just have to start feeling more comfortable in those kinds of spaces. But dealing with the coordinator specifically, it's always a mixed bag, because some coordinators, their priority is more getting images of like the detail shots and the stuff that they worked on, which is really important because it costs a lot of money to do that and it's a lot of work. But I hate taking detail shots, so I don't know, I just do it as fast as I can. I always try and maintain a certain level of politeness, and I always try and have the couple near me when I'm talking to the coordinator, because if not, what can also happen is if the coordinator tells you something and then they go off and talk to the couple, sometimes they'll throw you under the bus and be like, oh, the photographer, ran late earlier. They'll like blame you for things. So always kind of keep the couple within earshot whenever you're having those discussions, so that they're looped into not the drama, but just the context of why you only have 5 minutes to shoot here, or why you're a little rushed, or why we didn't have time to do the picture on the hill where they wanted to. But at the end of the day, always try and shoot quickly and efficiently, right? I mean, I tell couples I can do all family photos, all bridal party shots, and pictures of the two of you during cocktail hour with time to spare. And that's generally the case.
So it also brings me back to that time when you spoke about just going in an empty room and trying to be creative within that empty space. Is that something you did for situations like that time limit, so that you would be able to, make something out of any possible situation?
Yep. Yeah, like I said during my workshops, if you can't make incredible photos in your own backyard, why should clients trust you anywhere else? And it doesn't have to be taken that literally. Yeah. Some people don't even have backyards, but like if you can't make photos in your own regular comfortable surroundings, being your home, your bedroom, bathroom, office, living room, wherever, why should clients trust you anywhere else? Yeah.
So there's this issue that sometimes I have with couples, and I'm just curious to hear your take on it, is their lack of confidence in the way they look.
Yeah.
So sometimes I would basically ask them, hey, what's your favorite side? You prefer to shoot on, they take selfies and stuff all the time. So
people are aware.
Yeah, so I know that they're aware, and I try to shoot for that particular side. Do you use the same technique as well when?
So I don't lead the shoot with that. Sometimes people will sell me, and that's always nice. But maybe about 10 minutes into shooting, I'll ask, do you have a preferred side? And just kind of gently, because I don't want people to get in their head too much about it. But yeah, if they say yes I do, then I keep that in mind, and I shoot from that angle as much as I can.
That's awesome. So yeah, Sam, after all that walking and getting put out in so many places, time to wrap up this interview.
I can't believe it. I'm curious to see how long this interview is, and I'm curious to see how closely it resembles a Anthony Bourdain show.
So do you take drinks with your clients during a wedding?
Yes. Drinking alcohol during a wedding is probably not a great idea. I'll maybe drink a drink throughout the whole day, and then maybe another one after all my responsibilities are done. But that's it. If that's even that is an extreme amount. Because you don't want to be liable for something happening to your equipment, but more importantly, their photos at the end of a wedding. So just politely decline, say no, I'm working. I usually just say, you don't want blurry photos, and people tend to realize that.
For real.
And that's it.
Yeah. So, I don't know, maybe you could, give some advice to photographers who want to enter this industry, or who are kind of scared to take the leap, into photography, wedding photography. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, there's a certain romantic, lucrative, dreaming aspect to weddings specifically, but the reality is most of it is hard work and dealing with a huge variety of different personalities, not only with their clients but with their families. There's a huge amount of patience required. It's much more than just being a good photographer. What you see is the end result from some established photographer comes from all kinds of other skills that they've made over the years. So not just being a good photographer, being really a people person is what's important. And you don't have to be an extrovert. I'm very introverted. You just have to be, a kind, respectful, patient person at the end of the day. I think that makes the best wedding photographers. So in order to see if that's a good fit for you, second shoot as much as you can, or shoot for free if you have friends and family that need a photographer and can't afford a professional. Just slowly start that way before you go out on your own charging thousands of dollars or whatever. That's the best advice I think I could give.
So you saw your first steel pan orchestra.
That was amazing. Yeah, I can't wait. Someday I'm going to come back and actually come to Carnival, the real deal.
Oh, yeah. And you had your roti. What you thought of it?
Roti was good. Wasn't spicy enough, but next time I'll bring my own spice.
Yeah, and one more question. I forgot to ask you this. It's an important question before we wrap up.
Sure.
What is your take on social media and how you keep up with social media? How do you incorporate it into your business? Do you ever get exhausted with social media?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. I personally love social media. I know many people don't, but as a photographer, my photos are my marketing. So being that I have a great platform to reach thousands of eyes, it's suited well for somebody that does photography or videography or any visual art. Social media is fantastic, but you do have to place limits on yourself so you don't get too obsessed with comparing yourself. Comparison will kill you, really. Not just your creative energy, but your self-confidence and all that. Somebody's always doing something better than you in some capacity. So it's important to make sure you limit yourself and be aware of it, when and if it becomes a problem in terms of taking up all of your time and kind of the obsessive factor that a lot of people struggle with. But as a general tool of existing in the world, I love it. It keeps me connected, keeps me meeting people I would never otherwise meet in the world, and that's a huge amount of value. So
keeps you in contact with all those people that you meet, and to stay connected and to continue being friends and stuff like that.
Yep.
I think it's great too. But what would you say right now is the best platform for photographers?
I guess Instagram is still pretty much the best, and I was late to that. I completely rejected having to keep up with yet another social media, but Instagram seems to be striking a balance right now that it's still pretty enjoyable, but we'll see what changes Facebook makes. If you start posting and literally nobody sees it, then it's a problem. That's what happened with Facebook business pages.
I think,
of course it's going to die.
I think Facebook is really terrible now.
Yeah.
Not even the average consumer uses it as much as Instagram. So you tend to get a lot more feedback on Instagram organically than if you use Facebook.
Exactly. Yeah. So right now it's at a pretty good balance, but we'll see how it changes.
So I think that was a pretty cool interview.
Awesome. Yeah.
I think we shared a lot of info there.
Yeah, thanks for...
And it was nice. Later, don't forget to subscribe and check out Sam Hurd.
That subscribe button.
Yeah.
Smash that like button.
Yeah. I've actually heard that young kids actually instead of saying bye, just goodbye to people, they say goodbye and smash that like button. Subscribe. They work it into the goodbye.